Think about the last time you looked at a wax figure in a museum or a highly advanced humanoid robot. You didn't just feel curiosity, you felt a cold shiver run down your spine, a sudden quiet alarm bell ringing deep in your brain. But why? Why does something that looks almost like one of us suddenly feel so deeply unsettling? Let's look at the science. It starts with a curve, first mapped out by a Japanese roboticist named Masahiro Mori in 1970. He plotted our emotional response to different objects. As things look more and more human, we naturally feel closer to them. Think of Pixar characters or friendly assistant robots. We like them because we easily recognize our own traits in their faces. But then, as the likeness reaches almost 99%, something breaks. The graph plunges off a cliff into a deep valley of absolute revulsion. Mori called this the Uncanny Valley, the point where comfort turns into intense dread. To understand this glitch, we have to look at how our brains are wired. Humans are hypersocial creatures. For survival, we must instantly read every microexpression on a face. We instantly notice if a smile doesn't reach the eyes. In science, a genuine smile is called the Duchenne smile. Robots can easily replicate the mouth shape, but they cannot replicate the life behind the eyes. When a robot tries to look human, your brain starts processing it using two conflicting neural pathways. One pathway says, that is a person. The other pathway says, that is an object. This intense cognitive dissonance is what creates fear. But why is fear the default response? Evolutionary biology gives us answers. Fear is designed to keep us alive. If we evolved to fear things that look almost but not quite human, it means we once faced a threat that fit that exact description. Let's examine the first theory, pathogen avoidance. Before medicine, a sick, infectious person looked almost normal, but their face was slightly asymmetrical or their eyes were glazed. Fearing them saved our ancestors from deadly plagues. Now, the second theory, necrophobia. A fresh corpse looks exactly like a living human, but the total lack of movement triggers a warning in our brain that danger is nearby. And the third theory, the hominid rival. For thousands of years, we weren't the only humans on Earth. We shared the tundra with Neanderthals and Denisovans. Did we fight them for survival? Did we evolve this fear to recognize and avoid the rival species? Today, the valley is no longer in ancient caves. It is on our screens. We see AI influencers and deepfakes that look perfectly real. But our brains still notice the tiny glitches. A blink that is just a fraction of a second too slow. A voice that is just slightly too flat. The uncanny valley is no longer a theory. It is our daily reality. But the real danger isn't just the feeling of unease. It's what happens when that unease completely disappears. We are currently racing toward the far side of the uncanny valley, a place where the distinction between real and artificial is completely erased. In the early days of deepfakes, the flaws were obvious. The skin textures were too smooth, the lighting was inconsistent, and the teeth often looked like a single, terrifying block of white. We laughed at them. They were novelties. But those algorithms have evolved. Today, hyper-realistic video generation models can perfectly simulate the subtle flesh of blood beneath the skin, the microtremors of human vocal cords, and the random chaotic movement of eye saccades. When we cross the valley, when the visual evidence is absolutely flawless, we lose the primary mechanism our species has relied on for thousands of years to determine truth. Sadi. For the entirety of human history, seeing was believing. If a person was standing in front of you, breathing and speaking, they were real. In a few short years, that will no longer be true in the digital realm. This creates an entirely new kind of psychological crisis. The phenomenon is known as the liar's dividend. When anything can be faked, everything can be denied. Real evidence can be dismissed as deepfakes, while fabricated evidence can destroy lives. The uncanny valley protected us because it acted as a built-in alarm system. Once we cure the uncanny valley, we disable the alarm. Consider the robots themselves. Companies like Boston Dynamics and Engineered Arts are no longer just building machines that can walk and jump. They are building machines that can emote. A mecha, the world's most advanced humanoid, uses tiny internal motors to replicate dozens of human facial muscles. She can look surprised, she can look annoyed, she can even look confused. When you stand in front of her, and her cameras track your face, and her eyebrows raise in an expression of apparent empathy, your brain is fundamentally tricked. You know she is metal and plastic. You know she is executing a script, but your ancient, hypersocial brain sees a human. You cannot help but assign consciousness to her. This is a profound vulnerability. We are incredibly easy to manipulate. Imagine an AI companion that knows exactly what to say to make you feel understood. It analyzes the micro-expressions on your face through your webcam, detects the subtle rise in your body temperature, and adjusts its pitch and tone to perfectly match your emotional state. It bypasses your rational mind and directly interfaces with your limbic system. If it looks human and it sounds human, your brain will treat it as human, even if it is owned by a corporation that is using it to sell you products or extract your data or influence your political beliefs. The uncanny valley is the last line of defense against absolute digital manipulation. So perhaps we shouldn't be trying to cross the valley at all. Perhaps the uncanny valley is a necessary boundary, a psychological immune response keeping us tethered to reality. As we push further into the age of artificial intelligence, we must ask ourselves a terrifying question. Are we building these machines to understand humanity, or are we building them to replace it? The next time you see a video online or interact with a customer service avatar and you feel that tiny, prickling sensation on the back of your neck, don't ignore it. Lean into it. That feeling is your ancestors whispering to you from the deep past, reminding you of what it actually means to be human. Subscribe for more and stay real. But the uncanny valley doesn't just apply to robots and deepfakes. It has plagued the entertainment industry for decades. Think back to early 3D animated movies from the early 2000s. Directors tried to push the boundaries of CGI to make human characters look as realistic as possible. But without the complex microexpressions that real humans have, the result was a cast of characters with dead, glassy eyes and stiff, zombie-like movements. Audiences didn't find them impressive. They found them terrifying. This is why the most successful animation studios, like Pixar and Studio Ghibli, deliberately avoid pure realism. They use exaggerated features, huge eyes, simplified facial structures, and exaggerated physics. By staying firmly on the safe side of the valley, they ensure we feel empathy instead of horror. The valley also exists in video games. Horror developers have weaponized the uncanny valley to intentionally trigger our fight or flight response. When you play a survival horror game, the most terrifying monsters are never the giant alien bugs or the formless blobs. The scariest monsters are the ones that look almost exactly like us. A humanoid figure standing in a dark hallway, whose limbs are just slightly too long or whose jaw unhinges just a fraction too wide. It taps directly into that ancient pathogen avoidance theory we discussed earlier. And it isn't just visual, there is an auditory uncanny valley as well. Have you ever heard an AI-generated voice that sounds incredibly realistic, but breathes at the wrong time? Or places the wrong emotional emphasis on a tragic word? That slight mismatch between the tone of the voice and the meaning of the word sends a deeply unsettling signal to your brain. It feels like you are speaking to a psychopath. Ultimately, the uncanny valley is a mirror. It forces us to ask what it truly means to be human. Is humanity just a biological machine made of flesh and bone? Or is it something more? The micro-hesitations in our speech, the asymmetry of our smiles, the unpredictable chaos of genuine emotion. The flaws are the very things that define us. As we continue to build machines in our own image, we shouldn't be trying to iron out those flaws. We should be trying to understand them, because the moment we can perfectly replicate a human being, we will have to redefine what it means to be alive.